me start by asking you, Shuchi, when we talk about optimizing platform, what do you think are some of the business relevant criteria or principles that you've seen organizations keeping in mind and which are important for that decision?
Sure. So see, as Meenal said, I've been a technologist for last many, many years. So, what I wanted to share was a little bit of perspective of the journey. So there are certain core attributes that, inherently have been there in the ecosystem for many, many years. Cost being one of them. That's always been a key business criteria for any decision making. Then, of course, as we've progressed, if you see 5-10 years back, it's just cost of technology, old technology, because you're going through the transition, just maintaining old technology, getting consistency, scalable model, standardization. Some of these are sort of standard criteria that are applied when you are going in for a new solution or optimizing solutions. What's really changed in last few years is really, the strategy of the organization itself. And the reason being, the end user profile has been changing. Let's say as an example for HR, earlier days when I remember I joined the workforce 26 years back, we used to go to HR for everything, right? And HR would provide information. Today, my daughter, she just started working, actually finished college, it's first month. So before going, she was asking me, we were generally talking, I was giving her a little bit of gyan of, what it means to be in the corporate world, all of that. And the type of question she was asking was more in terms of, how do I know my colleagues? Would there be some kind of social network where you can just get to know people? How do I go get information? And with BYOD and everything, would I be allowed? It's still that sentiment of students. So the whole premise is really the self-service, access to information available. That shift has happened. So when organizations are looking at optimal solution, that is becoming one of the big criteria in terms of my user profile. Second biggest thing in my experience has been the technology offerings. Because if you see the marketplace, there was pretty much no cloud a few years back as an offering in the wider sense. Mobile, social, a lot of these things weren't there. So as we're thinking about, optimal solutions, it's really about leveraging what is out there to get the maximum out of sort of every rupee that is invested, maximum value for business. And third, probably the last one, big one, which we've seen is whole privacy aspect, compliance, data. Because I remember when, we used to design systems earlier, this was always a consideration. But the type of threats that we are seeing today, security threats, 1,000, 10,000, couple of thousand times a day, some of these portals are hit. So if you're not safeguarded against that, pretty much you're gone. As a brand, employee data is PI data, pretty much. So these are some of the key criteria that organizations are beginning to use now vis-a-vis, the inherent attributes.
Thanks, Shuchi. Raja, what would you like to build on this, especially considering what we spoke about as in your current organization, where you have a very unique workforce which is mobile most of the time and literally in the air. So were there any different criteria that you had in mind?
No, I think you're right. 60 to 70% of our workforce don't come to work. They work in the air, very, very far away from us. And we need to ensure that we engage them, and we need to ensure that they have a feel of the organization and create a sense of belongingness for the organization. So one way it was easier for us to start building based on that premise, because that is the business model which we have. So we said that for the purpose of the backend, we had to have a ERP. But at the same time, that ERP, we had it in the cloud. We did not go and invest in an ERP. We have ERP in the cloud, so we didn't spend too much of money. But because being a startup, we also had to be frugal with cost. The second thing which made us look at it is mobility. Mobility is a solution which we wanted to be right up front in anything which we did. So we wanted a platform which is seamlessly integrated in a mobile platform, so that we can integrate the back end with the front end. The next thing which we looked for in any of the platforms which we had was it should be uncluttered, very less resource taking. The user interface is simple, and your access is very simple. Rather than wait for multiple layers of security to go. Nowadays, it's possible for you to secure the data with a couple of access points. So how can we use secure, but at the same time be flexible? How flexible is a platform to build? Look at, like, when you're saying, we have stopped thinking of a IT plan for more than 2 years. Earlier, the long-term plan used to be 5 years, then we used to have a 3-year plan, then we had an annual plan. Now the annual plan is, it's 2-year plan, and it's a rolling plan. So if we have to have a platform to suit that need, which is the need of what we have, it has to be flexible, it has to be scalable. So flexibility and scalability played a critical role. And the underlying theme was cost. So cost was a big factor in what we decided as a platform. And of course, last but not the least, we said that what is the point of arrival? Do we want people to approach us, or we want, the apps? We didn't want to push apps to people. We didn't want to push data to people. We wanted them to access data. So how are you able to build apps in such a way that it builds data from us? And that was what we are looking at. And basically we said that there is a legacy system which you cannot go away with, because that's a data cruncher and the data builder. But how can you make it easier for access and also engage with people? That was the theme with which we went in with our technology platform.
So I'm also hearing some common themes around accessibility, privacy, flexibility. And I think what you also spoke about was how does it create engagement and experience.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to come to you, Krishnan. And again, unlike Vistara, your workforce is very multi-generational. You have young people, but you also have much older and mature
Vistara
workforce.
also has me.
Yeah, of course. You are always young, Raja. So what were some of the other criteria that you had in mind, and how did you make sure that you chose the right and the most optimum platform for Dabur?
Look, Dabur has been around for about 130 years. And there has been various IT interventions which have happened. And like earlier in ERP, we used to have MFG Pro, we moved out to SAP, then we implemented a CRM platform, and then we implemented a point of sale software. So generally, the change management of all these issues, one felt could always have been better. So one of the things when we decided to go in for a global human capital platform, we wanted to be very sure that we get it right the first time. So proactively engaging people on the change management was something which was very, very, strategized upfront. So we identified the common interest groups. One common interest group was the millennials, because we had a lot of the management trainees, the engineer trainees, the CAs. Then the other common interest group was the people who do transactions, people who do your payroll processing, people who do your reimbursement, people who do this thing. Then the HR functions themselves. So what we did was that we actually asked the market research head Nandini that you please conduct focus group discussions with all these people and figure out what are the issues they have with the current platform, what are the change management issues we have faced in the past, and what is it that they would like to see as a solution coming to them. And we put all that together and ensure that when we start filtering out the various pitches, that becomes an important filtering point among these people. And what we did was the millennials were the, like typically in any change management process.
So what are the kind of filters you use? So as you went through these focus group discussions?
Look, like any change management process, there are three kinds of people. There are early adopters, there are fence sitters, and there are trench fighters. Okay. The millennials were the early adopters. Okay. And they were very clear they wanted a mobile solution, it should be app-based, minimum paperwork, UX should be very good. So mobility became one important criteria. From the transaction processing people, for them, migrating from a legacy system to a new system seamlessly, So the biggest worry used to be, when we move to the new system, will the payroll give me the right, information? So we decided April 2015, because the finance wanted that whatever you change, do it from the beginning of the financial year, because I don't want to take out data from two platforms. So we said April 2015, the payroll processing has to happen from the new platform. So migration, and yet the legacy system providing a backup for it. You know. Then, so we identified these various interest groups, and we started creating a list of things that we would keep in mind. And IT was front-ending it, but as a facilitator. So every pitch, we had very clear criteria as to what all I need to look at before I sign off. Since we have grown through mergers and acquisitions globally, language was an issue. Like in a place like Turkey, nobody understands English. You need local language capability. So multiplicity of issues we kept in mind, and we wanted to ensure that it's scalable. I don't want to relook at my platform going forward. And though many IT people may not agree to it, we were very clear we don't want a cloud platform.
Okay, that's interesting.
We would rather do the capex, invest on the server, and keep the data with ourselves, because and some of the solution providers got eliminated because they didn't have anything other than a cloud-based platform. So and I fought for it much against the IT people this thing, because my view was that tomorrow, 4-5 years down the line, if I want to throw this vendor away, I want my server and my data to be in my control. You know? So maybe a very archaic way of looking at it, but I was very clear about it.
That's very interesting.
And from a P&L point of view, a capex makes much more sense than a continuously running revenue expense, which is license-based. You know?
So Vaishak, what's been your experience? Did you have clients like what Dabur mentioned, not going for the cloud, but is this something new for you, or is this something that you often hear?
No, I think this has been pretty often. I think cloud, maybe not now, but maybe 3-4 years back, cloud was quite not a good word within the HR or the IT community, because they always used to ask basic questions like, so what happens to my data? Yeah. And I used to answer them simply saying, you do your online banking, what happens to your data? Or you do your Gmail, what happens to your data? They're all on cloud. But yeah, some people believed, some people did not. And I'm sure Krishnan does not want to believe it. It's okay. there will be some time in the future. But I would say today that it's not so much of a resistance for cloud. I mean, across, I would say, companies. I'm not just talking about small companies, but even larger organizations look at also cloud. For example, you can see the success of SuccessFactors in India. SuccessFactors has got a lot of market in India, but they are only on cloud. So there are a few Workday also coming in, and they are also only on cloud. So I think that kind of inhibition is gone now, and people are considering cloud. I think just wanted to say after hearing Raja and Shuchi and everyone, I think a bigger challenge on optimizing is what the HR wants out of that system. What is that strategy behind it? I mean, is that very clear? Is that the strategy what the organization is also driving? Is that matching? Because we've seen, I mean, I've been in this HR technology, offerings for the last almost 10 years. And we've seen people buy a technology or decide on a product. And when you start implementation, they go all over the place. I mean, it just goes anywhere and everywhere. Then the question is, I mean, what have you bought it for? First you see what have you bought it for, then see how you want to go beyond it. You've graduated to a technology from a Excel sheet. I mean, please don't expect everything to be under that in that one leap which you have taken. Wait for something to happen and then move ahead. I think that is one big challenge, I guess, everyone in the HR technology offering would have, because this is seen very often. That's one thing which bothers us all the time. So how do I meet customer expectations? How do I do customer management based on these? I think otherwise I also agree that yes, like Raja talked about, gone are the days of 3-year strategy and 5-year strategy. Today it's only about rolling strategy. Yeah. It changes annually. Every 12 months you have to have a strategy in place. And yes, HR strategy has to have in the organization goals. It cannot go away from there. Because then there will always be a challenge for HR to meet up management needs. Saying the management is looking somewhere else, but what you've given me is not what I want. So I think that needs to be there together. Thinking has to be together there.
I think you raised a very important point, which is, how do we connect it to the larger strategy and the purpose. So in your experience of having worked with different clients, is there an example where you can share where you saw a different business strategy or an HR strategy vis-a-vis another client, and how did the decision on the platform link up to the business and the HR strategy of that
See, I've not
organization?
had an experience directly in seeing something, but something which I had read about and heard about from one of the, it's a kind of a global example. It's a example of a large retail chain having about 80,000 employees, in the UK. And they had a platform, they had a legacy platform which they were working on for almost 10 years or so. But obviously with the new, this happened only just 2 years back, okay? With this kind of a workforce, this kind of spread across the world, there were so many challenges which the legacy product or platform could not live up to. So the kind of decisions they had to make to move to a new platform were 2, 3 very different. They were not only about HR. A very big thing was, will this new platform integrate with other IT platforms in the organization? Now, HR is today, even the HR platform is not only about HR. It needs to connect or integrate with other products in the organizational IT space. Because there will be exchange of information from here and there, from this platform to that platform. So I think saying that it's just an HR strategy may be not right way of going ahead about it right now. It's more of an organizational strategy, and where HR is one of the larger blocks which needs to be fixed. So I think this particular retail change I was talking about moved from that legacy platform to a completely different platform which had all these ingredients built into it, which is not just about integration, it was about mobility, it was about user experience, it was about few other things. That's where it made sense to have a optimize or go to such a platform which really deals with the challenges of today.
Thanks a lot for being here and for the engaging conversation, and thanks for a great audience. Let's give ourselves a big
Thanks,
applause.
Meenal.